McDonald's sales fall globally for the first time in more than 3 years. McDonald's reported a surprise drop in sales worldwide on Monday, its first decline in 13 quarters, as deal-seeking consumers shy away from higher-priced menu items, including Big Macs. And if you're middle class, then I doubt you're surprised, since the chances are that you've been cutting back on eating fast food because of how unreasonably expensive that it's become. This kind of need for constant growth means that there becomes a need from the executive's perspective for constant price hikes, and that's what McDonald's has fallen victim to. In fact, these price hikes have happened so often and so fast that they've actually outpaced inflation, as you can see here. Fast food price inflation. Menu prices have outdated national inflation at rates in every fast food restaurant since 2014. And right up here at the tippy top is McDonald's, and as you can see, it's outpaced everything, but all of these major restaurants that are listed have outpaced actual inflation. Now, with this, it is good to note that McDonald's actually denies that this entire chart is even accurate. They put out this thing on their corporate website that's myths versus facts. With lots of inaccurate information, we thought it might be helpful to share some of the common myths, and it's like prices have raised at nearly double the rate of inflation, which is essentially what this graph is claiming, and they say no, that it hasn't here, and it says they've raised their price so much, and they talk about it's a result of greed and price gouging, and they say no, that's not the case either. But it is also worth noting on the other end of things that McDonald's doesn't actually cite any sources for this. They say they cite people who are saying it, but all of these claims that they've made in here, that's like, this includes increases in new restaurant crew salaries, which are up 40%, food paper costs, and the costs of goods sold, which is up 35%. They don't actually cite any sources for that. It's just one big, trust me, bro, our prices have not gone up by that much. This is what our average prices have been, and this is the real inflation. Whereas, at least with this article, which is talking about the inflation of fast food, this is by Finance Buzz, is fast food affordable anymore? Here's how menu prices have changed over the years, and you can come down here to this section. At least here, even if it's not entirely accurate, and I've read over it, and it seems pretty good, but maybe not perfect, they've got a whole section right here on methodology, talking about the items, where they got the item prices from, and so on and so forth, and this is where they got inflation rates from, yada 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 yada. At least they back up their claims with methodologies and sources, and McDonald's is just kind of a no, really, you can trust us. Our menu prices haven't gone up as much as people say, even though you probably remember McDonald's recently going viral for having an $18 Big Mac meal. Now, going back to their sales decline, a lot of people, I think, have seen this coming, and that becomes more apparent when you take a look at their stock price. Looking in the last year to date, they're basically unchanged over the last entire year, so you've got 4 quarters in that time. They've gone down and up and down and so on, and they've basically broken even over that time. But looking year to date, they're down notably. 6 months, they're down notably. 1 month, they're up. But 1 month is not really much to look at unless you're looking at some short-term benefits. And 5 years, they are actually up. But as you can see, they remain basically where they were in 2022. So we're looking at about 2 years of not a whole lot of change. And I think this is because those prices have been going up. And so investors are not confident that people will continue to want to pay these higher and higher prices. And so they're pulling out of McDonald's. And the problem that McDonald's is running into is that the solution to their problem is also the problem itself, in that the solution to their stock prices going down and not making as much money is to raise prices. But the actual raising of the price itself is the problem, because consumers are unwilling to go to McDonald's in the first place because of the constant price hikes. And CNBC talks about it here. It says McDonald's reported U.S. same-store sales growth of 2.5%. That means the same stores that were open previously that are open now are expected to increase on average a certain amount each, and they missed out on that. So stores that already existed are not necessarily making more money. So McDonald's reported same-store sales growth of 2.5%, missing expectations of 2.6% growth. The chain said that the average check grew thanks to higher menu prices, but by raising prices, McDonald's has also scared away some of its low-income customers. Whatever that name is, said the company is working on a national value deal in the U.S. While the strategy could attract more customers, franchisees may push back because those promotions can cut into their profits. So sales are down, and so they want to get sales back up by raising prices. But then by raising prices, they alienate these low-income consumers who have made up a majority of their consumer consumer base, and as a result of that, their sales go down again. If they're too high, people are not going to go into a McDonald's in the first place. So then the question becomes, well, why not just lower prices? And there are two main reasons for that. The first is that it would look bad for McDonald's because they would essentially be admitting fault. They would get bad press as people say, see, McDonald's is just a greedy corporation. They could have lowered their prices at any time, but they chose to wait until today to actually do that. The second reason is that consumers might stop eating at McDonald's in hopes that if they don't eat at McDonald's, that McDonald's will continue to drop the prices. So if McDonald's drops the price a little bit, then people will realize that by pressuring McDonald's into dropping prices by not eating there, that they might get cheaper deals 6 months or 1 year from now. Now, on the solution side of things, there's a couple of options, with the most obvious one being just release new foods or new meals that consumers actually want, which primarily means ones that people will enjoy and also are reasonably able to afford without having to break the bank or pay $18 for a Big Mac meal. And another solution that's kind of less obvious is to try and make the foods actually taste better by changing how they are created so that people are interested and coming back for new flavors. And that's surprisingly what McDonald's is doing. McDonald's is promising its best burger. Now the chain will see if diners want to buy more of them. It's not necessarily a new burger. It is the same burger, but they're preparing it differently to try and make it taste better so that people who have had McDonald's for their entire lives now have something new to experience at the same restaurant. And here's specifically what CNBC says about it. McDonald's and fast food chains will face pressure to grow traffic this year. Diners won't stomach the double-digit price hikes that fueled last year's sales. Instead, chains have to convince their customers that their food and drinks are worth their prices and more frequent visits. Enter McDonald's Best Burger Initiative, small tweaks to the chain's burger that create a noticeably more flavorful product. Our goal was to enhance the quality and flavor and the overall eating experience of our core burgers, but we wanted to stay true to the tastes that everyone loves, McDonald's Chief Resource Officer Mason Smoot said in a media event on Monday. McDonald's didn't change the beef patty itself, but rather the cooking and assembly process. The grills give the patties a little more breathing room as they cook. For more flavor, only 6 are cooked at a time, down from 8. Onions, too, are added before the patties are cooked so they can soak up the patty's juices. The cooked patties are kept hotter, so the overall burger is still warm by the time it reaches the customer. The cheese is melted better, the buns are upgraded, and Big Macs have received more of their special sauce. This is a step in the right direction for improving some of our very core products, but staying true to who they are as well, says analyst Mark Kalinowski, CEO of Kalinowski Equity Research. And before we go on, if you enjoy this kind of video, I post 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd love a subscription and to see you around here on some other videos. So this decision that McDonald's has made to launch not a new burger, but a new way of preparing the burger that we're all familiar with has kind of a twofold impact that will hopefully benefit McDonald's. The first is that people who have been eating McDonald's for years and years, or possibly their whole lives, now have something new and exciting to experience in the same kind of place that they had gone before, which is the McDonald's restaurant. If you had grown bored of McDonald's burgers because you had had them for lunch every day for the past 10 years, then now you don't have to change anything. The burger changes for you and you're good to go. The second is that it generates articles almost exactly like this one. It's press, free media attention and promotion, and it encourages people to stop in and try this new patty because McDonald's hasn't changed their patty probably since like 1950 or whenever they opened. It's something new and exciting, and out of sheer curiosity, people might give it a shot, and that will boost their sale. That, of course, begs the question, is this actually working? And the answer is kind of, maybe it is. You can see over here. Can McDonald's Best Burger push sales and actually increase traffic? And they've actually got specifically a question about this, the McDonald's Best Burger. McDonald's started rolling out the better tasting burgers roughly a year ago, but has finally launched them at all locations nationwide. Some of the company's most important international markets, such as Australia and Canada, have already implemented the Best Burger. Australia and Canada have outperformed some of McDonald's other big big national markets, which can be at least partially chalked up to the burger improvements, Kalinowski says. At McDonald's Investor Day in December, CEO Chris, whatever his name is, said that the best burger was on track to hit all 70 markets by the end of 2023. By the time 2026 wraps up, the company expects nearly all of the markets to serve upgraded burgers. With initiatives like Best Burger, we are making small changes that are adding up to big differences that our customers are really noticing, he told investors. So, of course, the CEO would say this. Oh, well, it's working. Lots of small changes, big differences. Customers are noticing. More people are coming back. Our international markets that have already adopted this are doing great. But, of course, a CEO is going to try and tell investors that the new exciting thing they're doing is bringing in more customers because the CEO wants their money. Whether or not it's actually going to pan out long term is really up in the air. Now, in addition to things like the Best Burger initiative, I talked about that they're going to have to come up with either cheaper food options or cheaper meal deals. And that's where you get things like McDonald's famous $5 meal deal that I think was then immediately copied by like Wendy's and Burger King and Taco Bell and so on and so forth. But the issue with those meal deals is that they are just straight up not profitable. And if they try to roll out too many of these meal deal type things, then franchisees might start to push back, because if they're losing money on the meal deals, then that's money out of their pocket. And they might not be willing to take a pay cut because McDonald's as a whole is starting to struggle. But on the topic of McDonald's as a whole starting to struggle, it is worth noting that it's not just McDonald's that's struggling. In fact, if we take a step back and look at kind of the entire fast food space as a whole, it's a lot of restaurants. Long predicted consumer pullback finally hits restaurants like Starbucks, KFC, and McDonald's. Starbucks, Pizza Hut, and KFC are among the chains that reported same-store sales declines this quarter. McDonald's said it was adopting a, quote, street fighting mentality, unquote, to create value to win over customers. Outliers like Wingstop and Chipotle Mexican Grill show that customers will still order their favorite foods, even if they're more expensive than they were a year ago. So a lot of big restaurants that you would kind of expect customers to pull back from because of how much they've hiked prices, customers are doing just that. They are pulling back from them because they're sick of those higher prices. Now, to be fair, this is not all bad news for McDonald's. I actually think they'll be okay long term. There's some boycotts in the Middle East that I don't think will necessarily last very long. McDonald's sales in China are down pretty significantly despite the pandemic kind of coming to an end over there, and there's an expectation that those will pick back up. So I would expect, maybe not next quarter, but definitely the quarter after that, McDonald's to see a big hike in sales as consumers, not in America, where they've continued to pull back, but in other countries around the world, start to come back to McDonald's and purchase their burgers. And so as a worldwide franchise, I think that they will start to do better, even if here in America, their future is still unclear. Thanks for